Well, it's wonderful to have all of us together here, and this is the only time that most of our experts are going to be together. So I'd like us to start by talking about our concepts of health and consciousness. And I do have to ask once, Carl, the only psychiatrist I know who's funnier than the average comedian. When you're with your patients, are you as funny, as facetious, as light-hearted as you seem to be with us?
Yes.
That's the shortest answer I've ever heard him give.
So now that we've left the garden, it's hard to recapitulate. Yeah, I think that sense of humor is critical, and people have to see kind of the sunny side, not just the seriousness with which they come. And I think that if they can see reflected in you something that they might imagine themselves, it's a gift.
I think that's true. We, as health professionals, should be role models.
Well, I hope that we get to that subject today. The system is not good, and how it is that we look at illness is not good. But we're well trained to diagnose illness and disease. That is the model by which we are trained.
And in fact, in medical school, we're really only trained to take care of acute and serious illnesses.
It's true. Health is never defined in medical school. I never heard it mentioned. It was the absence of disease. That was the best that we could do. But we are trained to identify illness, and in other cultures they are trained to identify strengths. They illuminate an individual's positive attributes. They identify with their strengths so that they can help them come to whatever it is that they've got from a posture of possibility.
Well, you know, I think you've heard me say that in medical school at Duke, all of the courses in general were good, with one exception: psychiatry. It was so awful, Carl. And in fact, the head of psychiatry had the gall to stand up in front of our class and say, you know, there's some people who finish medical school who don't like people. They should stay and teach. And then they had a question on the exam. List 5 characteristics of a good psychiatrist. And I wrote crazy as hell 5 times.
I remember that.
Well,
I was called in. And they threatened to flunk me. And I said, would you like me again in this class?
And that was sufficient to pass me. Well, it saddens me that psychiatry is becoming more and more like medicine, attributing that our great successes and failures to some kind of chemical equation, when we ought to be talking to people more, and instead we're talking to people less, and attributing our success and failures to the genius of some chemical interaction, as if we will explain the subtleties of the human experience by some kind of biological phenomena in the brain, when it's clear that it doesn't matter how much we understand about the biomechanics of the brain, the mind will always have a mind of its own.